Welcome to the Screen Podcast. It's day 8 of our Cannes 2026 dailies. We're so thrilled you're joining us for this podcast series. My name is Wendy Mitchell. I'm contributing editor at Screen International and ScreenDaily.com. And I'm actually here in the bustling Screen editorial office. It's like all the president's men in here every day. So thanks to my colleagues for being quiet while we try to do this. Before we really start, I wanted to say congrats to all the winners of the Global Production Awards last night. A great group of companies, of locations, of services. You can read all about that at ScreenDaily.com. Just a few to mention were a special award to Netflix and to films like Rental Family and Jurassic World Rebirth, and locations as far-flung as Texas to Ireland to Norway to Vancouver and Toronto. So congrats all involved. And now I'm thrilled to welcome two special guests, both making their podcast debuts with us. We have two of our esteemed longtime critics here at Screen, Johnathan Romney and Lee Marshall. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Bonjour.
Good morning.
I know you're very busy watching films, thinking about them, and writing about them, so thank you for taking a little time with us. We're just going to talk quite quickly about a few highlights for you so far. Johnathan, let's start with you. What has been a title that has stood out to you in some way in the competition?
Well, the first film that really impressed me in competition is Paweł Pawlikowski's Fatherland, but I know people have talked about that already. So I'll talk about the other one, which really came out of nowhere for me, which is the beloved El Ser Querido by the Spanish director Rodrigo Sorogoyen. And Sorogoyen had an international art circuit hit with the thriller As Bestias. This is The Beasts. This is a completely different one. He's made some very sort of full-on TV series before, notably Riot Squad, but this is one of those films about films. It stars Javier Bardem as a veteran film director with a couple of Oscars and a reputation for being darkly difficult. And Victoria Luengo, who also appears in the new Almodovar film in competition, and she plays his estranged daughter. And for reasons best known to him, which we have to sort of fathom for ourselves, he decides that she, who is an actress but not a terribly successful one, she mainly works in a bar, should be the female lead in his new film set in the Sahara and filming at the Canary Islands. And it's basically a two-person character piece, but it also has some of the most gruelingly painful, but also extremely funny scenes about the horrors of what happens on a shoot when the circumstances are difficult and there's one person there who is more difficult than the rest of the entire shoot. There's a scene in which they're trying to shoot a lunch, and they're shooting it in blazing heat, and things are starting to go wrong, but not really that wrong. But Bardem combusts, and this scene just sort of plays out forever and ever, and it's excruciatingly funny, and then it's painful. And it's a remarkable piece of filmmaking. You know, it covers ground that we've seen covered before in cinema. The father-daughter dynamic, as in Sentimental Value. You know, the whole kind of Truffaut Day for Night, unmasking, demystification of, you know, the myth of cinema. But it's clever, it's insightful. It seems to have a certain amount of, you know, improv or near improv style performance, including a brilliant moment when the Luengo character is making faces and you think, what's she doing? And you realize that she's doing this very cruel but very funny imitation of Bardem playing her father, and it's just incredibly energetic and insightful film. Two brilliant performances. I think a massive career boost for Victoria Luengo and Bardem also. I think both of them are going to be receiving some honors over the year, maybe even this week.
Okay, let's wait and see. Yeah, people have been telling me, we all love Javier Bardem. We know how talented he is, and people are saying, yes, but this is next level Bardem. So I can't wait to see it. Lee, can you tell us one film that has intrigued you in the competition so far?
Yeah, I also have two, one of which is I'm also on Team Fatherland. I thought that was just such a beautifully made film, and what a joy to see a film that comes in at 1 hour, 20 minutes.
Yes.
But I think the other one I would like to highlight is the film All of a Sudden, one of the longest films in competition, running at over 3 hours, by Ryosuke Hamaguchi, of course, who was probably best known for Drive My Car, which was nominated for the Academy Awards. This is a original, refreshing film from a director who continues to surprise us. I thought his last film, Evil Does Not Exist, which played in Venice, was a surprising departure after Drive My Car. And this is another very surprising departure. It's a film in which there are only good people, which is a very difficult thing to pull off. It's a film about which is set in a care home in France, where most of the patients have Alzheimer's, which is also a very difficult thing to hook an audience in with. It stars Virginie Efira and Tao Okamoto. She is the manager, she's a director of the care home, trying to introduce a new, more kinder, more humanitarian method of looking after people whose memory has completely gone. Tao Okamoto plays a Japanese playwright in France who is looking after a kid with severe autism. So in theory, incredibly tough subject matter, but actually the way that it's done is with a kind of sprawling um, grace that I mean, this is a film where for long periods you have the two main characters simply walking and talking, and they're talking about all sorts of stuff. They're talking about moral philosophy. They're talking about politics. So at one point, Tao Okamoto's character starts plotting her idea of capitalism on a whiteboard. I mean, I think Hamaguchi is turning into a kind of Japanese Godard. I hope he doesn't go full Godard, but but he is somebody who's able to harness in his films the most disparate ideas and but tell them not like you're reading a textbook, but with incredible cinematic dexterity. So that completely blew me away. It was something totally different, which is always refreshing in in the early stages of the festival, which is when I saw it.
Sounds gorgeous. What about, it's not all about the competition. Let's not forget, of course, we have Uncertain Regard and Midnight and special screenings and premiere and the sidebars of Directors Fortnight and Critics Week. So, Johnathan, did you have a pick from something that's not in competition?
I do. The film that really got me in, I believe it's in special screenings, and it's again, it's concise, but it's beautiful and it's heavyweight and it's very much a film of now. And I mean about, what has been happening over the last few decades, but what is still happening this week and going to be happening, who knows, in the near future. And it's a documentary and a kind of a diary essay film called Rehearsals for a Revolution by an Iranian filmmaker, Pegah Ahangarani, who is currently exiled in the UK and who started out as a child actress. Both her parents were filmmakers. And so she has a long career as a child and then an adult actress. And what a film is about is basically the history of modern Iran from just before the revolution, which resulted in the theocracy that still endures, through various incarnations of social protest, upheaval, attempted popular protests, uprisings, tenuous or tentative revolutions which seem to offer hope, but then failed. For example, an election of a more liberal leader that people had hope in, only to result in further brutal clampdowns. And what's fascinating about the film is it's divided into several chapters devoted to different people in Pega Ahangarani's life, including various family members and a friend, and a teacher who she idolized, who represented liberty and, a more liberated lifestyle. And then as a child, she unwittingly betrayed. And there's a very kind of self-lacerating mea culpa in that section. But what's wonderful about the film is the way that she uses different media throughout the years, a lot of archive material from TV, her parents' footage in different, there's 8mm, etc., 35mm, but home movies, then video comes in, digital comes in, and she ends up editing her footage on, using some sort of digital software that fills the screen. And constantly she's sort of thinking about and considering about the meaning of what she's done, the meaning of the medium she's using, and thinking about, when will the revolution, when will change in Iran come? Not the failed revolutions or the disappointing revolutions, but the one that is actually going to liberate Iran. And of course, now with Iran under bombardment, which is something that appears not to be hurting the government, but continues to hurt the people, it is an incredibly very urgent film that absolutely needs to be seen. And it's sort of wonderful that it's had a serious platform, serious exposure in Cannes. It really is a great, great film.
Sounds amazing and very layered, as you said, about
Very,
not only the
very
story,
layered.
but also thinking about what is the filmmaking process around this. Oh, on my must-watch list now. Lee, did you want to mention a film that's not in competition?
Yeah, and this is another one for your must-watch list. The Cannes End Directors Fortnight is a section I love because they always come up with gems, at least 2, 3, or 4 in every edition of Cannes. And I went to one, not a film I was reviewing, but I just had a free evening, went along on the off chance to a film I knew nothing about. It's always great when that happens. A film called Shana, French film, made by a director called Lila Pinelli. It's her first feature. It is, imagine a mashup of Anora and Shiva Baby set in the banlieues of Paris. It's kind of that. It has this incredible energy, and the energy all emanates from its central character, who is the titular Shana, who is played by a actress called Eva Huot, who actually the director has spotted in when she was filming at a summer camp when this girl was 10. She's now 19, 20, and she is an absolute force of nature. The film plays as a comedy, even to the extent that some of the scenes are like brief comic sketches that don't really fit into any kind of coherent plot. But it deals with some very serious themes. The Shana is a French girl of Moroccan Jewish ancestry. So that's why I mentioned Shiva Baby. There's a lot of action going on related to her younger sister's Passover ceremony. But Shiva lives in this kind of gritty, underbelly in the outskirts of Paris. Her boyfriend is a drug dealer in prison when the film starts, comes out of prison, and she is a victim of coercive control. So it deals with this issue of partner violence, domestic violence from the inside, because she doesn't, at the beginning of the film, recognize that she's a victim, coercive control. And you see her, when he comes out of prison, shrink from this incredibly in-your-face ball of energy to this kind of cowering, sort of defensive girlfriend of this guy. And yet it manages to do that while the film, and I think this is something I've rarely seen, while generating laughs every 2 or 3 minutes, which it does have a, for anyone who's worried about how it's going to go, it does have a lovely arc, as a story arc as well. So I just thought that was absolutely. I had a great time with that film. I happened to go to the premiere evening screening when the actress, all her friends who are also in the film, and all their friends from their part of Paris turned up. So it was an absolute riot. The screenings like that are just, one of the things that make Cannes such a pleasure.
I love it. Okay, that's also on my list. I am not a critic at Screen, but I have to mention a film I saw in Critics Week, which is Dua by Blurta Basholi. And this is set in the Kosovan War in 1990 in Pristina, and it's about a teenage girl. And, on paper, it sounds, okay, that could be nice, but it really delivers. And this is the director who had made Hive, which a lot of people had appreciated at Sundance a few years ago. And the young actress in this film is extraordinary. So, yeah, I would say lots of good films to consider. So from what I'm feeling, it's quite a healthy year. I mean, some of the films are splitting people, but it's not like everybody's hating all the films. And we've definitely got a few great ones to hang on to so far. Any sort of trends you're noticing, Johnathan?
Well, I am noticing a trend which has been sort of boiling over for the last few years, and it seems to be everywhere. And it's got to the point where I'm slightly thinking, okay, maybe we can sort of gird our loins and move on. There is a lot of grief, and even in the lightest comedies, it's very much about grief, which is very I don't know. I fear it may be becoming modish rather than, a serious motivating theme. I have to say, one thing that worries me this year, maybe I'm sounding a bit apocalyptic, is I don't think this is by any means a good competition. There have been some
I agree.
outstanding
I
films.
completely agree. I think it's a weak year.
Yeah, and a lot of it feels like stuff we've seen before, or well-known directors, particularly. I mean, the worst, I think, in this case, being Asghar Farhadi, repeating themselves badly. And one of the things that worries me is, we're going through a moment of, it's an incredibly interesting moment to be alive. Not necessarily in a good way, but it's an interesting, critical period. Culturally, historically, and technologically. And I think film is not, in general, it's not rising to the occasion yet. And that's why I felt Rehearsals for a Revolution is such an extraordinary film, because it has its antennae really twitching. And it does, because it's from a director who has lived through a particularly complex and challenging culture and continues to, and I think too many filmmakers may be sort of panicking and saying, let's just do what we do and worry about the world later. And on that note, I think I have to bow
You're going
out
to a
and
screening.
rush down the Rue d'Antibes, rush to the Palace. So if you'll excuse me, I'll say
Yes,
it's
thank
been
you,
a pleasure.
Johnathan, and enjoy your screening. And just
we'll
a
talk
reminder,
again
people, we've
soon.
got a lot of more competition films to come, so we'll see overall later. Lee, do you share some of that sentiment from Johnathan that it's not the best year for competition?
I did, and actually, I think it's interesting that the film that out of competition, that not playing a competition, that was one of Jonathan's favorites, the Iranian film, was a documentary. I saw a fantastic documentary called Gabin, in the Kanzen. I think that the kind of cinema struggling currently to channel the zeitgeist is possibly more visible in a festival like Cannes or Venice or Berlin, which is a generalist festival, because these are festivals that are still skeptical about documentaries. And documentaries, I mean, I was at IDFA in Amsterdam last November, and documentaries really are where the cutting edge of a lot of this discourse is going on about what the world is like today. And I think festivals like Cannes need to open up to them even more than they currently do. Another very interesting thing I thought was we were talking about the Korean film Hope,
Oh, yeah.
which is a full-on action movie blockbuster in competition. That has never happened before. I think this is the proof that Cannes, which was always the one that held out more than any of the other festivals against genre cinema, has finally embraced it. I mean, let's not forget that another great Korean genre film, which was Bong Joon-ho's Host,
Mm,
didn't even play an official in the official selection back when it
mm.
back way back when. I can't remember the year when it played. It played again in the Kanzen because the festival's very snooty about this kind of product, and so I think that's a shift as well, which we're going to see accentuated even more in the future.
That excites me, actually. We had
Mm,
Nikki talking about some great genre films. Host was 2006, by the way.
right.
But I guess
Okay.
it
So
had a
20 years
creature in
ago,
it. Yeah, it had a
it
creature
had
in
a
it.
creature in it, exactly, which
So
this
maybe
does
that's what
too. It has
scared Thierry's scared of creatures. I don't know, putting it out
this
here
has
now.
creatures.
Yeah.
Hope has lots of creatures in
Okay.
it.
Well, I think this is a very positive trend that, more kinds of cinema are welcome here. And
Yeah,
it's,
yeah,
yeah, not just navel gazing auteurs
great. I've actually got
sometimes.
to scoot now because
Yes,
I've got to go
now
and
Lee's
see.
going to a screening. They're all leaving me. This is the life of a critic here at Cannes. Thank you, Lee, for joining us.
Thank you. I enjoyed
Um,
that.
and we'll talk to you soon. So thank you to Lee and Johnathan for joining us quickly. As you can see, critics at this festival do not have time to sit down. They were both running to films. Can't wait to hear what they think of whatever they were seeing now. You can read all their reviews and all of Team Screen's reviews at screendaily.com. But yeah, some fascinating reflections on some specific films and the whole state of the competition and indeed the state of filmmaking from Mr. Johnathan Romney. So watch this space. Thanks to everybody who has joined us today. We'll have another episode for you tomorrow. We really appreciate you tuning in during, even if it's the busiest Cannes. Hopefully this is a few minutes of non-stress as you walk to your first meeting. Big thanks to the whole team at Screen for making this possible, especially our podcast producer, Ellie Calnan, and our head of digital, Orlando Parfit. See you tomorrow.